after the capstone, your writing assignment is to do a book review on the nonfiction book that you're reading for this course. Book reviews can be intimidating, but they don't have to be. And I want to spend some time discussing the essentials of how to do a book review and what I'm expecting. To do this right, I'm using a model, of a small model, a very small model that um, once you see it, you can listen to these comments and kind of and can understand what I'm looking for and really what you should be gearing up to do for the last essay. The small piece that we're using together is called The Runners, and it's a short film on Vimeo. Uh, it would really help if you watch this first before you continued on with this video. So if you haven't done so already, I recommend pausing it, this video, spending the next 11 minutes watching that short film, and then coming back. All right, so let's move forward with the assumption that we've all watched it. When you do a book review, there are two things that you need to address, and if you address these issues or these two things, you're going to do fine for this assignment. This is sort of entry level reviewing, if you will. So please don't be intimidated by the assignment. You don't have to write the perfect review, but I really want to see that you're moving in the right direction. And the two levels are the substance of the book itself, which I think we would agree is the more important, aspect of the book. But the second level is the surface level of the book, how the text is presented, formatted, packaged, how it's turned into, frankly, a consumable in today's culture, and how it has been accepted as that. What are its strengths and weaknesses in terms of not only what is it trying to do, but how is it, attempting that given its actual material form. And by that I mean, the pages, the size of the thing. Is it as long as it needs to be? Could it have been shorter? Sometimes the book industry likes to have books like this be a certain length because they sell better. And if your price mark is, $24 a book, the public may want to feel like they got $24 worth of book, and the author may really have only 4 or 5 chapters that are truly contributive to the idea that they have to share, and 2 other chapters might be added on in sort of in a way to extend the physical length of the book, just so that they can sell it at a certain price point. Everything about a book, its cover, its color, how much color is used, the type of page, the way that is it paperback, is it hardback? If it's either of those formats, we'll have other things added to them. Does it have a dust jacket? Does it, is it UV coated if it's paperback? Does it have raised or impressed type so that you can fill the title? And I don't know. I guess what I'm saying is that everything costs money, and everything is going to go into the overall production price of a book. And you're going to have to make revenue on this thing if you're going to stay in business as a press or a publisher. So these issues are fair questions to look at as you're reviewing the book. I don't necessarily need a physical description of the thing if you don't think it actually adds to what you're saying. But if your point, for example, is that the book is longer than it needs to be, you might be able to look at the way they spaced the interlinear spacing, the space between the lines, or things like that, the thickness of the pages to extend the length. And you might be able to use that as something to think about for future buyers. Maybe that's how you can think of it. If you need to review this product so that future buyers, potential buyers, can get a really good idea of whether or not to buy it, that might help with some of the decisions that you would make with this. So a book review is going to be very much like a critique, in that you're going to have to summarize the book, and then you can evaluate it from those two angles: the substance, what was the book trying to do? What were its goals? What were the goals relevant? And that the person saying what they said, did that make sense? Was there exaggeration? Was there, selective evidence? There wasn't necessarily a good representation, or perhaps there wasn't sufficient evidence. Someone might be presenting evidence in terms of anecdote, so that they're trying to make a point, and they're making the point by telling you stories about their personal experiences, which is never going to really be strong evidence for something. So when it comes to substance, those are the things you're looking at. You can be looking at values, at definitions, at logic, at and support. And then when it comes to the surface of the thing, you can evaluate the product in terms of what was the writing style like? Was it readable? Was it annoying? Was it great? Did it flow correctly? Was it appropriate in its diction or its vocabulary choices? And please, you don't want to be cruel, mean, or over the top with negativity, but you also don't want to be sugarcoating things and not pointing out what you believe are genuine faults. Okay, that's not the role of the critic. The role of the critic is to look objectively at the product itself and to point out as fairly as they can the strengths and the weaknesses, the success and the failure of the thing. It's not to avoid hurting the feelings of the creator of the piece, okay? Or to flatter the person. That both of those things are going to eventually undercut the credibility of the critic. Okay, the critic has to be able to go right to the heart of the matter and say, this is the strength of the piece, qua piece. What I mean by that is, as a piece per se, as a piece in itself, this standing alone, these are its strengths, these are its weaknesses. Okay, so that's what you need to do, and let's practice a little bit with the little video runners. Okay, so the video is about people exercising. They're jogging. They're not racing. They're not preparing for races, except for one is. I take that back. One is preparing for a marathon, but it's a marathon. So this is not about speed running. This is about endurance running. This is about running as a habit of life. Okay, and the film is being made from the back of a moving vehicle. And the vehicle positions itself in front of runners and films the runners. And sometimes you get the runner running on the side, and the vehicle is also on the side, and you get a side shot. But nevertheless, whether it be a golf cart or some other sort of small, probably battery-powered vehicle, it's what is being used to carry the filming equipment. And there's going to be a mic that is leaning out, capturing a shotgun mic, capturing the voice of the runners. The voice of the runners is always clear, but sometimes, many times, the question is a little muffled because the mic situation wasn't what it should have been. But that sort of a setup allows the film to present you, the watcher, with really a representative slice of adult life. Notice that there are not any children in this film. But when it comes to adults, when it comes to people living their own life independently, trying to forge ahead, trying to find a path that they are responsible for, you have male, female, you have younger adults, you have older adults, you have middle-aged adults, you have tall adults, short adults. You get quite a selection. So, and you get quite a selection of the questions that are asked. And the film seems to take advantage of the surprise moment of, hey, here we are. We're not really a big professional movie company. We need some help making a film. Will you help us? We just have some questions to ask you. It's going to be anonymous. No one's going to know your name. Can we ask you about your job, about your father, about a regret you might have, about the fact that you don't have any children? Can we ask you where you think you came from? Was it evolution? Was it God? So the questions are probing and intimate, but because the setting is innocuous and innocent, and there is a sense of shared help. We need and of low risk. These are not. This is not some huge company that's going to twist your words. There does seem to be a willingness of many runners to engage quickly in a quick connection. They're all strangers to each other, but that dynamic does seem to help the film work. Now, the film's goal is simply to give you a look into the way people think about life and the way that running might be used as a metaphor for life. There is stressed this notion that you need to keep on moving. And we use that in some of our metaphorical language about persistence. Keep on, get up, keep moving, move forward, right? Run to the light, or run to the goal, or cross that finish line. When you're struggling, you just got to cross that line. So running does seem to be part of already part of our established collection of symbols for life, for living. And I think the film really caps in on that, capitalizes on that with the title, The Runners, and really presenting the human race as the runners. So that's the film as a summary. Now, notice what I just did. I just gave you a summary. I got a little verbose as I was going. If you actually counted the minutes, was that a 5-minute summary? The film is only 11, right? So, at times when you're doing a review and it's something short like that, sometimes it's best just to present a link to the film or just to copy the poem or the short piece in your review. But here, when it comes to larger works, you're going to have to somehow summarize it, okay? Then you can move into evaluation and you can talk about thoughts you may have had. For example, let me give you some thoughts about the evaluation of the film, The Runners, all right? So I thought the filming was fantastic for the low budget that it was. Maybe it was even what they call a no-budget film, which is basically there is so little money really involved that it's not really, a budget worth considering in the first place. How much money does it really take if you've bought the cameras already? If you have already sunk the cost in establishing the equipment and the business, and did you need to rent a golf cart? Because I'm assuming that's what it was, but maybe it was a car, and they were, or a small pickup truck, and they were filming from the back, even though I didn't hear any noise of a motor running. So, how much money actually went into this, and so the point was that what I'm trying to make here is that this is a very inexpensive film. And for being so inexpensive, doesn't it do a great job in its goal? This film seems to really know what its goal is. The goal is given out to you in the title, The Runners. And then as soon as you start seeing the way that they are approaching their subjects and the questions they're asking, you realize the goal is to probe human minds about the meaning of things, the meaning of sickness, the meaning of children, of childlessness, of the meaning of marriage, and not getting married, the meaning of depression, the meaning of aging, the meaning of origins. It's probing. So now we all know that if we go down that path, there are so many things to ask questions about. Whole movies can be written just on marriage. A Marriage Story, Scenes of a Marriage by Ingmar Bergman. You could put them all in a category. Those are just two kind of famous ones, but that's just marriage. If you want to talk about origins, if you want to talk about depression, you can put collections of texts in here. So there is a sense where if you're going to start asking questions like this all over the map, it's self-defeating to go long. Rather, it's better to evocatively deal with just a few, because the point here is not to provide all the answers, right? That can't be the point. There are too many questions out there. The point here is to remind you that your life is about the pursuit of meaning for these issues. That's I believe is the goal of the film. And this is not something that you're going to solve right away very quickly. This might be something you have to battle for. You have to endure. But you can't lose sight of these questions. You're not meant to lose sight of these questions. Many times it doesn't seem like you're going anywhere with it. And you might even be running in circles, but you're trying to chase this. And if that is really the goal, then you don't have to ask 1,000 questions. You don't have to be exhaustive in the questions you're asking, because just a few makes the point. That it might not necessarily be the answers you come up with, but the fact that you are pursuing an answer. We all hope we find an answer that is the correct answer. But to give up on answers altogether, that's a mistake. That's when you stop moving conceptually. You see what I'm saying? So I think that the goal of the film was very clear to the filmmakers, and that the length of the film matches this perfectly, right? Because if you're not philosophically minded, and if you're not, even if you are, but are not in the mood, you're not going to put up with a 40-minute film like this, right? At most, it can go to 15 minutes. I think 8 minutes is a little too short. I think 10 or 11 minutes, in my opinion, is perfect. So I loved the way it knew its goals. It knew the attention span of the audience. It knew the point it was trying to make. It didn't have to ask a lot of questions, actually. It felt like it did. But if you really want to look at all the possible questions you can ask someone about the meaning of life and the issues of life, it could be a huge list. It could overwhelm the textual creator. So I feel like that was done very well. I think the representative sampling was done well. This is not a film that you can ask children about. I think, although, I don't know, maybe 1 or 2 children in there might have been the case, but might have helped. But really, this can be really questions that are focused on the adult life, right? Because the adult life is the independent life, at least in theory. And the independent life is a life where the person has responsibility for the answers, for the values and the beliefs they choose to put together as a system that guides their thought and action. So I feel like the way that they brought in all the ages and the different races, and I think that was great, the different genders. I did have some questions about the actual. Now here I'm addressing the surface level. Okay, I do have some questions about the actual texture of the film itself. For example, there were scenes that were dedicated to snow falling. There were scenes that were dedicated to just, I think, shoes, a tennis shoe. There was a couple scenes that focused on animals, and I think that maybe if those had been eliminated, nothing would have been lost. Okay, there were scenes that were coming in and out of focus. Some runners were a little fuzzy. These things can be forgiven because overall the film, I think, it's a beautiful film. But there were some question marks over some small parts of the actual content in terms of, well, why did you exactly include that? Why did we have the dog running off into the field? What's the point of that? So now sometimes it's there just to I don't know. There could be a couple good reasons why they did that. I think always the bad reason, the poor reason, would be because they needed a little more time, and this was a scene of 7 seconds or 8 seconds, and they put it in there, and they had it. They could use it. Well, anyway, excuse me. The music was I thought worked really well. The focus here is on the discussion, so you don't need a lot of music in the background. But when there is this type of music coming in at certain places in the film, it could add to the variation of the sensory experience, which is why I'm really not too upset about the dog scene, because that's also providing a different collection of images to vary it up, if you will. So that visually and audibly, you're not ever experiencing some sort of plateau or sensory boredom, if you will, kind of mixing it up a little bit. But I did appreciate the music. I thought the music was well selected. I thought it was the type of music that goes with this. And I also appreciated the moments of silence. I think silence was used very well in this film. As silence is used in these questions, many times as you try to answer these questions, you might hit a moment of silence when you're trying to to gather your thoughts. And I think that the actual audio of the film reflects that thinking process. Okay, so I thought that was really well done. Could things have been done, better here? Sure. I think it's hard to make the perfect film, but you don't need to keep on revising something that really is, good quality here. I feel like if there was something that could be fixed a little bit, um, perhaps the scenes that depict the weather of the filming really do jump all over the place. You have the sunny day, then you have the overcast day, then you have the rain showing up as water on the pavement, then you have the snow, and so this really speaks to a passage of seasons. And as you realize that this film might have taken 6 or 8 months to film, at most maybe 2 or 3, depending if you catch it just right, like late fall to early winter, you might catch that snowfall and the rain. But there was the sense that the shifting weather does represent the shifting season. And I can see someone saying, well, that kind of adds to the metaphor of this. But from my angle, it highlighted the technical aspect of just filming the film. What I mean by that is there's only so many shots here that are going to work. And you might have to go out day after day after day to get the right person. Maybe you're looking for a middle-aged male or an elderly woman, and to find that person that's going to interchange and interact with you. Maybe it's only 1 out of 10 strangers that are actually doing this. Maybe this film crew had so much had to persist so much in asking these questions because people checked out or refused to answer, or just literally turned around and ran the other way, or I don't know. But it seems that as you watch the film, that people are naturally responding to this. It's as if they want to be intimate. They want connection. But as you see the seasons pass in the background, or the weather change in the background, you realize that this film may have taken days, months to film, which then indicates that maybe people were not so willing to be engaged, and it took a long time to get that shot just right, which kind of adds another angle to this that I don't think necessarily needs to be there. I don't think this film was highlighting our resistance to philosophical questions. I think this film was trying to highlight the fact that we are at the essence philosophical creatures. We are creatures that are bound up with the mind and the body, and both of those things need to be moving. They need to be exercised. And they don't need to be going linearly to a certain destination. They can go cyclically, around a circuit, around a track, over and over, habitually, as long as there is this constant exercising of it on these deeper levels. That's what I believe the film was about. The film was not meant to suggest that it took them 2 full seasons to get enough material to make 11 minutes. So I feel like I would have responded better to the film if it had been filmed all in one meteorologic era or time period, like in the summer, just all in the summer, because then seeing those seasons change would not have given rise in me to these thoughts about the resistance and the time frame of it. This is 11 minutes. It looks like it should have been filmed rather quickly, but it might have taken months to film. Now, of course, other reasons for that might have been just the film crew. Maybe they met only every the second and third weekends of the month or something. It depends on their scheduling. So I realize there are a lot of questions about what I'm just saying here, but I do feel like the changing weather in the background is a little bit of a mistake in the design of the film. So, okay, I'm done there. That would basically be my review. I gave you a quick summary of what the film was. Then I talked about its goals and how I felt it met those goals, or perhaps failed to meet the goals a little bit. Can I be completely wrong about this? Yes. Can reviewers be wrong? Can they be overly harsh? Can they be motivated by different reasons than trying to objectively look at the piece? Yes. that's why I look at a number of reviews if I'm really interested to see what something is about, and I don't know, I don't think I have the time to read it or to watch it, and I might never actually read that book, but I hear enough about it and I feel like it's an important book right now. I might look at a couple book reviews because I don't want to just go to just one. I want to see what a couple people thought about this. And the promise of the reviewer is this person has spent a lot of time with texts, whether it's movies or music or books. They've lived in the realm of the text. So they get the feel of it, okay? They get the feel of what a good text feels like and what a bad text feels like. But they're still human, and they can be motivated by wrong motivators, wrong energies, wrong direction, or wrong reasons. They could make a mistake. They could somehow the piece they're looking at, the text they're looking at, could be affecting them subjectively or personally, and that's clouding their objective view. We're human. This is what we do. Okay, we make these sorts of mistakes. We don't even really think of them as mistakes, but somehow they influence our evaluation of it. So, I'm not looking for you to like come up with something to say about this book in terms of its goals, its readability, its style, its length. That I'm not looking for you to come up with observations that match mine. I'm looking for you to honestly exercise some evaluation here and see what you think. If you really think this book stinks, I need your reasons. Like, is this book even necessary? Is this just someone else trying to get their first book into a crowded market? Right? Why is I don't know, but if you believe that, you have the right to believe that. You just need to be able to explain why you think that. So don't feel like you have to somehow come up with something that, like, I agree with 100%. I just need you to not make wild claims that you have no real explanation for. Or I need to be able to see you talk about the reasons why you feel this is good or bad or weak or strong or whatever as a book. So, hey, it's not that hard of an assignment the way it's designed here for this class. It's not that easy either. I want you to respect it. I want you to give it some time. But I also want you to know that I realize that writing this way is harder than it may seem. It's like juggling, and it's one thing to just juggle one ball, but everyone can do that. I mean, to write well, to write pieces that create interest, maintain it, reward it, while they're fulfilling a goal like the book review, it's like juggling three or four balls. And you need to have a space to practice this. You need to have a space where you're not penalized if you drop a ball or two a couple times. And this is that space. I'm telling you, if you just fulfill the assignment, turn it in, you're going to do all right, okay? If it's way off mark, I'll probably give you some comments on that and try to help you to fix it quickly. But this is towards the end of the semester, and this is sort of a way for me to really check that you've read the book or thought about it. So it does have some ulterior motives behind it, and I'm going to be very much ready to take your work and say, you did it. I can see you did it. Full credit. Okay, so relax a little bit and go to it. Don't use AI on this. You write it. You let me give me your thoughts on this. Okay, and I appreciate it. Thank you for watching.